welcome. I'm John. Today we have a great guest, Samantha Capaldi. She is the No Snob Somm, based out of Arizona. She's expanded her base to 300,000 at this point, Instagram followers, and has a very successful club and wine brand business, as well as being a wine educator. And so it is my thrill to have Sam Capaldi as our guest this week. And what I want to talk about with you mostly is I want to talk about you starting in wine because where you are and what you're doing, I promise we're going to get to it. But I presume you were not born into wine. So what was the thing that grabbed you?
Yeah. So no, I grew up not even being able to be allowed to drink, like no wine at the table. So like anyone does, I binge drank in college, and really rebelled. I just had the classic, college experience. So I certainly never fell in love with wine when I was young or with family, even though I'm Italian and probably had a lot of reasons to. But yeah, it wasn't until I decided when I was unhappy with where I was after graduation to look up trade schools. I wanted to I knew people went to college, got a job in, corporate, whatever. And I just wanted to see what else was out there if I didn't do the typical route. And I actually was looking at culinary programs. I've actually always loved cooking food, not ever thought about it professionally. It just was, I was thinking outside the box, like I never had the opportunity to. Because at my college there was no hospitality program. I didn't get the itch anywhere, near that when I was in school. So I was looking everything up. Long story short, I found a couple girls that went to my college that were English majors, and they started a food and wine like event business. And they would, do pop-ups and go to people's homes. And I'm like, oh my God, like I could totally do something like that. Like no matter what my major was, in political science, like I could do that. And so I reached out to them, and I owe a lot to those two girls. They own a company called Argo in Laguna Beach, actually. And they told me they went to an international culinary center in Campbell, California. It's no longer there. There's one in New York, but the one in California is not there. And I researched and mostly impulsively went and did not the culinary program, but the intensive sommelier training program. Because that's what caught my eye more than the food when I was looking at all the details of it. So I left my apartment to my now husband, boyfriend at the time, Nick, to take over my lease without asking, just gonna go do this, and moved to Campbell, roomed with three aspiring chefs, and got a part-time job in Campbell and went to this program. It was every day from 9 to 6. And honestly, John, I wish I could tell you then I fell in love with wine. Like that's where it started. No, looking back now, 10 years later, I could finally admit, I don't think it was that either. I think I got excited I could be good at something. And I never in school did well on exams, got like A's, I always just kind of like skid, just to pass. But I succeed at it. Myself now that 10 years later, after having all those jobs, I never stopped trying to do my own thing, like doing my pop-up Sam Somm tastings, and full circle going to like what made me fall in love with wine. It took a while, but it was that. It was seeing people's reactions to like understanding it after I explained something, and seeing their reactions or them sending me a message after they found a wine they really love thanks to me, or they found a pairing they really love thanks to me. So the people, the community aspect, and meeting other people who wanted to experience it the same way, I think was really what made me fall in love with it.
One of the things I definitely have noticed is that the people who serve like they are taught in school tend to do pretty poorly. I mean, it's probably not the best way that we teach. It might just be that we haven't figured out another way to do it. But that that being said, One of the things that I found really, really interesting is that while you are a prolific content creator, like you could see your stuff, and I encourage people who haven't to go on Instagram and see it, hundreds of thousands of followers and passionate, is that I don't feel like you're a content creator that you do anything other than kind of show us your day. Is that natural, or was that like part of some thought bubble as you were starting to think about your social?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, my Submit the Sommelier account was just my normal Instagram, like that I had when I started, college and stuff. And when I started posting wine content, it was definitely more the not stuffy, but it was like what I was learning in wine school.
Right.
Like it was like, okay, here's my flight, and I would, be more technical, So at first I wasn't talking about it the way that I naturally am now, I guess. So I do want to just say that, like, it didn't come to me naturally, and I want to be honest about that, because I feel like a lot of people who are maybe new to content creation struggle with how to do it right, and like know what's authentic or what comes off like maybe not, I don't know. So I just always want to be transparent that for me it was not instant. I felt comfortable being myself on social media. I actually was so not myself that the clientele that was booking me to like be a sommelier for their event was the opposite of what I wanted. It'd be like, no offense, John, but a collector who'd been all over the world, who was in all these wine clubs, who was rich, and they wanted me to come, wow their dinner friends, and not to say they were not nice or anything like that. Most of them were lovely people, but that was not my safe space. That was not comfortable for me. That was not the environment that I wanted to be a somm for. So it was a reality check where I'm like, okay, I need, again, this was 10 years ago, social media. I need to put out the Sam I am to my friends, the silly weirdo, that my friends like, still laugh that I'm a sommelier, because they just know me from being, fucking Sam.
Mm.
I need to put her out on my website, adjust website to reflect that. And on top of that, adjust social media to reflect that, which is obviously terrifying, because putting who you really are on social media is hurtful if someone doesn't like it, because then they don't like you. And
Right.
that's and I'm a sensitive girl. So like it was very scary. But that is literally the best decision I ever made. As soon as I made my website more feminine and fun and silly, and then my posts started to reflect that, guess who started reaching out to me and booking me? People who wanted to have a fun bachelorette with me. And so I called this one my first ever official business tasting. It was for a bachelorette from girls that found me online in Chicago and booked me for a tasting. And I'm still friends with them to this day. I've had one of the girls on my wine club as a special guest, and I'm forever grateful, because that's what really set the tone. I'm like, I felt like we were friends, but I was still, the educator. I'm like, this is my niche. Like being like in that, like, I'm your wine bestie, and we could have fun and not take it seriously, but you still feel like you're getting your money's worth, because I'm a business. And so that was really cool for me, because I think that's the biggest challenge for a lot of people, whether it's wine or anything, is being obviously friends, close with your clientele, but also being a business. And so I'm still working on this as a woman, being silly and emotional and sensitive and fun, but still being taken seriously. And you absolutely can be, by the people you genuinely need to attract. But yeah, it was, again, long answer to your question, but it took me a little bit to be able to post that authentically. Yeah.
So this does have a lot of crossover appeal, this episode, only because of the thing you touched on. So everybody knows that I'm a little bit opposite. I presume, without, you know, asking, that you're following trends female, trends
Yeah.
younger, right? In mine, trends male and trends a little bit
Not
older.
younger, not
Oh, that's
younger.
interesting.
That's a misconception that I had, me
Yeah.
thinking too. But I got I'd say my age, millennial to like 70s.
Okay.
I have a lot of the 50 to 70 generation, which is
Good.
pretty
So
cool.
so we'll try to crack the youth code in a second, but let's talk
Yeah.
about the gender code because I
Yeah.
did attend a COVID era
Yeah.
virtual tasting with you,
Like,
which
was that
I
when I would do the ticket ones where like through like Eventbrite? Like, I'm trying to think which
yes.
one. Yeah.
Yes. And
Cool.
so yeah, I bought a ticket and then I you had arranged for wines or I had arranged for wines, whatever. But we all drank
Yeah.
together. And of
Yeah.
course, unlike a regular tasting, yeah, everybody's got their own bottle. So we can imagine roughly, how that sort of thing went. I know that
Yes.
you have done virtual tastings even before COVID, but talk a little bit about whether those people who attend there, whether those are very similar to your live events and your private events. Did that kind of work out, or was it a totally different group?
Um, it's cool to think about it. I'd say it's the same group, like same demographic. I guess I never, John, thought much about male versus female or even age.
Yeah,
I never really I had no way of knowing that. I never asked people to put that on a ticket. I never knew. I could only know solely by their name, of course. And if who I saw on the camera, I just always figured whoever signed up, it was the silly, fun-loving demographic because they knew what they were getting into. So I never really tried to attract more feminine energy or younger energy. I just wanted to attract people that had maybe a hard day at work but liked wine and wanted to have a little bit of fun with me. And I think if we're getting technical, yeah, I'd say more women would definitely find it. A lot of like single women who wanted to like drink with like-minded people was a big factor I've noticed. But a lot of date night people who wanted to do something like with their partner. So that was kind of fun. And then going into, the older generation, yeah, a lot of people who were retired. And I always hear them say, I never thought wine could be this fun and not pretentious until I found you. And now I like wine again, and
yeah.
so I always think that's really fun. But yeah, the virtual tastings during COVID really set the tone for my entire business. And obviously COVID is awful, but I would be, lying if that I didn't say that picked up my business significantly because there's only so many local in-person tastings I could do. So even though yes, I was doing virtual tastings a little bit before COVID, as soon as that hit, I would make posts on Instagram, and this was me being genuine and not a marketing tactic. But I said, hey, I noticed a lot of brides got their wedding canceled or postponed. And so that means your bachelorette is. And I just felt bad because I dodged a bullet. I got married in 2019. I got to have the wedding, huge wedding of my dreams. I got to go to Vegas. I got to just do everything a young bride wants to do. And so I felt really sad for all these 2020 brides that couldn't do all of that. And so my posts, I did a few of these and I was like, if that's you or you have a friend that had to cancel, comment. And I'd love to offer you guys a complimentary virtual tasting. So it turned out I did, if I looked back, at least 50 free tastings,
Really?
and which was a lot, but no regrets because think about it. That group of 10, 12, 15 girls, at least two of them reached out after to book another, and this was before I had my wine club. So it was an unintentional, I guess, marketing thing, that I'm really grateful that I did out of the kindness of my heart, but then of course turned into, referral after referral. So that was really cool. And that's, that led to not just doing those ticketed pop-up virtual tastings like you attended and like, hey, I could do this as like a booking, like let's make it on my website and make it official. And the rest was history. I was getting booked for tastings every day, weekly, whether it was date night, friend get together, someone's in New York, California, they miss each other, solo people who just maybe were lonely and wanted to have a friend. And that's what I love. And then after the tasting, they'd always be like, I never even thought for a second it'd be awkward just to taste just by myself, because I always felt like we were friends. And after that tasting, like, it solidified it. Say, I'm like, thank you for making me feel so comfortable. And so it was very reassuring for me that this could be my thing, and led to, my wine club and all of that.
So, I want to shift, but barely, I think, which is this Taco Bell obsession slash interest in making wine kind of combined with food. It's especially interesting because you said that you were interested in becoming a chef, and now you've become the sommelier, really the unofficial sommelier for
Yeah.
Taco Bell. But talk a little bit about that.
I'll keep tagging them. I'll keep having people shout out, like, sponsor Sam. Maybe one day I'll get to go to a media event with Taco Bell influencers.
You probably have done more for Taco Bell than anybody else I've seen online. That being said, where did that come from, and is that in your mind kind of limited to Taco Bell, or is that just because that's been your taste of the last number of years?
Yeah. Well, this is like more of a nostalgic, how when you asked me what got me into wine, I
Yeah.
didn't have that, oh, my dad let me drink at the table and I grew up, but Taco Bell was like me and my dad's thing. He would take me after school, we'd sit in the back of his pickup truck, and we like just a bean burrito. Like, my dad is a very simple man, and like, so he'd order me what he got, and like, that was our thing. Sometimes it'd be like my first dinner before we got home, or like second dinner. And so, grow, like, again, doing a lot of reflection in my career the past 10 plus years. I do have to shout that out to my dad, because like I grew up eating Taco Bell with him. How it kind of went into the wine and the content. Of course, I could see anyone asking, is that real? Like, are you actually eating it? Like, fair questions, because there's a lot of content creators that do it for the gram. But I absolutely just like Taco Bell, and was like, hey, like, I like pairing things with food. Why can't wine go with it? And when I posted it to social media, no idea so many people would resonate with it. Like, literally no idea. Like, and now it's like, who wouldn't like it? Like, even top-notch chefs, I've seen a lot on social media say, you're just lying to yourself if you dismiss Taco Bell. There's always a time and place. Like, of course we all want 5-star meals and, filet mignon and a fancy wine. But if you don't just appreciate some Taco Bell, like, come on, like, that's one of life's just simple, easy pleasures. And so, yeah, the one post I did, I don't even remember which one it was, but people were like, of course there's always haters, but mostly good feedback. And I was like, okay, fun. Like, I want to do more. Like, I love it. So yeah, very much genuine in that regard. But the one thing I will say, and I don't think people are more not as small-minded as this, but just for anyone who might think I don't only eat Taco Bell.
Well,
I think some people might think, oh, she eats it every day. Like, no, I don't eat Taco Bell every day. But I definitely eat it every month. Like,
I guess that's right. In other words, even if you ate it once a month, but every time you had a presence of mind to flip that phone camera on or whatever you do to film, where it's just like, well, I can't let this one go by. But
yeah.
also, obviously,
And there's so many times where I'm eating Taco Bell and I'm not documenting it. It's just like any person, but it's like, I try to do it though. Like, it's almost like when you start being a content creator, you almost like owe it to your audience to like show your behind the scenes. Like, something I've learned, you could post your grid and have this content strategy, and it could be from a week ago that you're posting a thing today, and it could look like, you're doing it in that real time. But, sharing on stories and stuff, I really like to show like, hey, like I am eating Taco Bell tonight for dinner, you guys. Like no real about it, like, but I am. And so I like doing that too, because it's just like watching a food blogger who's always posting their amazing, beautiful, curated, edited recipes. And you're like, do they ever eat it though? Like, is that what they're eating for dinner? And the food bloggers that I follow, I love more. I follow specific ones because like One Top Ahead, Rock Your Body, because she is eating it for dinner. She made it for her husband and a little bit for her baby. And like, I feel like more connected to her because I make her recipes every week. So like, it makes me feel a lot better. She's actually eating them too. So like, I want to be that person for my audience where I'm talking about these wines and these pairings. I am actively eating them too, even though it's not every day I'm eating fast food. Absolutely not. Like, but I am eating it more on a regular basis, than maybe a couple times in my feed.
So authenticity for you obviously is like super appealing to people who follow you like me. One of the things obviously has been mental health that you have felt comfortable sharing. Was that like a conscious decision, or did you just kind of share something and like all of a sudden you realized that people were going to treat you well for being authentic rather than jump all over you for struggling like most people do?
Yeah, definitely not a conscious decision. It was very like probably just a random story that like that I posted whatever happened or how I was feeling. And kind of like the Taco Bell effect, got a lot of responses of people that said, I things that really hit John, like, I feel less alone today because I saw this story.
Mhm.
Like, I could like cry thinking into that because like that alone would make like even if I stopped talking about wine altogether and just talked about like me as a person, like mental health, like if I could just resonate with one person that was like having dark thoughts and like they resonated with that story, that means more to me than anything. That means more to me than wine. Like just human connection and making someone not feel alone is always my most important thing. So posting about something mental health wise subconsciously turned into what I stand for entirely. And I'll always put human first. I'll always put personal first, like, before a wine transaction. But if I could create a platform where someone resonates me as a person on who I am and likes my expertise, that's incredible. So I hope I could always, have that together. But it made me realize to how I make people feel matters the most.
So
So I wanted to not ever stop doing that.
yeah, so wine being this connector, it really allows for that to happen, right? I mean, if you
Totally.
are doing anything else, it might just make zero sense. But I think part of the reason why people find wine is because they really want to connect with other people generally.
Yeah.
And so I think it matters. And I'm going to take this, I'm just going to go to crass commercialism because you really have expanded the business. I mean, I have found club and brand and all that stuff to be so interesting. So talk to me a little bit about the last several years, the things that you've shifted into and what you're excited about, and then whatever you are seeing. So just think about this in terms of wine industry professionals who are watching this, who are like, who are like, I see the front end, like she has captured just this giant audience. But now what do you do with it? So let's talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess reflecting on it, all the years just making my silly content, being relatable, I guess without even purposely trying, that, and not making a lot of money, was worth it because that's how I built my audience. That's how I am, with this platform now. And it wasn't transactional. I would do a ton of things for free. I wasn't probably the best business mindset, for better or for worse. Going back to what I just said, I always put someone before, money. So like if someone needed, a curated wine list or like the bridal free tastings, like that's just what I did. So like I put in a lot of free labor to build this audience. And I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but it's how I got to where I'm at. And I'm thankful that I am, because I think that's how I built trust and loyalty with so many people, is they just felt safe. Like I wasn't asking for something in return. And it's to the point where I could go on my stories, and like my husband's been laid off for nearly a year, and I'll be honest, I'll be like, you guys, like it's been tough. Like, shout out to all the single income people out there when they're used to, having two incomes to support a household, a mortgage, whatever. Um, Now more than ever, if you have someone who wants to join my wine club or refer for a tasting, like it really would mean a lot. Or if you could write me a review, I'd love to build that up, or resharing my posts. Like I'll just ask people for help, and I think that's pretty cool, because I think that's very maybe frowned upon for businesses to do, or scary. But once you feel like you've built an audience that it's reciprocal, like I felt safe to ask them for help, which I'm very thankful for and really proud of. But on top of that, things that I'm really really excited about, and that I just can't wait to just keep see what they turn into, is definitely my wine club. Um, you found me from that COVID tasting, and now it turned into, I do 4 of those every month for my wine club members, and different themes, obviously, like you were getting to see. But what's really special and what I'm proud of for the industry is every single month I highlight a small winery. And they have a chance to tell their story through a virtual tasting to a whole new audience. And on top of that, they get to sell their wine. They'll put together a special bundle of whatever wines they want to highlight. And my members from across the US, Canada, wherever this winery could ship, members could order, and all the sales go directly to the winery. I don't take commission. All I ask is good vibes. Like I just want whatever small winery to like not be in it transactionally, to be in it because they love wine, they want to connect with like-minded people, they want to cultivate community. So it's always like a vibe check. And I've been lucky that every winemaker I've ever featured is wonderful. And bonus is they do get those sales, of 60 plus orders that month that maybe wouldn't have come through. And now that I've been doing it for a while, like that, it could be a big game changer. The big conversation, I'm sure John, is small wineries are suffering, the wine industry is suffering, wine in general is suffering, and that's all true. But I think we just need to keep highlighting the good, that's happening, and not let that get overlooked. Because sure, even if the winery is not getting 60 sales, they are getting to talk to an audience of hundreds of people that never would have heard of them. And that could turn into a sale. At the very least, it turns into an email subscriber, an Instagram follower. Like they're connecting with new people. So I think wineries being open-minded to that is a no-brainer for me. I'm getting a little sidetracked, but I do need to add in, I got my big break from saying yes to leading a free virtual Zoom tasting for a group of ladies that were there to support Caitlin Bristow, which she's a famous bachelorette and had a wine label. I didn't really know much about it. I just got a DM being like, we like what you're doing. Would you want to lead this tasting? I was like, why not? Like it's COVID. I could connect with more people easily. So I led this tasting. And then after, Caitlin Bristow's team loved me. They hired me on to be their go-to no Snob Somm for their wine label, which entered in this whole audience of Canadian people that, resonated with me. And saying yes to something that wasn't paying me, it wasn't transactional, just saying yes in a world where everyone sets boundaries so much. I think if just more wineries, weren't so transactional maybe, and just were open to, hey, like, let's see what this could turn into, and getting on that page, I think that could be really wonderful.
Yeah, it is interesting too because obviously a lot of things are changing, and one of the main themes that we have had is this idea of reaching this next generation, which apparently even you, with kind of everything that you are doing to connect yourself to people and people to each other, hasn't quite uh, made it work for young
Yeah.
people. So since this is kind of the theme of the season, I'm going to put you in charge of the wine industry right now. You are the president of all of us. What are some things from your experience that you could deliver that could help us begin to bring them in and connect with them so they could connect with us so that we could continue to have a nice balanced consumer base rather than just slowly aging away?
Yeah. I first want to say, definitely it's not the Gen Z's fault for wine suffering. I don't ever like hearing that. That's and you didn't say that, but I know people are like, "Oh, the Gen Z's not drinking." Like, like that's not it. That's not it.
It's not.
Um,
Although there's a deeper issue. Just to give a little perspective, which
yeah,
requires my extra generation ahead of you, which is in the
yeah.
'90s. There was this giant trend toward more consumption, especially red wine. Called it the French
Mm,
paradox. And so the French paradox was, how could these people be so fat and out of shape and yet live longer? And they
yeah.
traced it to one glass of red wine a day. Now, of course, you and I know that's pretty silly in retrospect, but that really made the wine industry in particular rise altogether in the '90s. And now we have the opposite, right? Which is even a drop of
Wow.
alcohol is really bad for you, and we see it sink. So this isn't necessarily
Yeah.
the fault of anything other than messaging, which is wrapped in some amount of truth. But it
Totally.
also, yeah, it also has then falls back on us and now you as president of the wine industry for purposes of this
Yeah,
podcast
it's so much
to solve.
deeper. Yeah, it's so much deeper because exactly, you could have one health expert and their opinion is any ounce of alcohol is deteriorating your life, right? And then that spreads. And I don't want to take this convo too different direction, but I think it's all about extremism. Like anyone who just is so extreme in thinking one way is going to be so hard to convince. And I almost don't even think of it generationally as much as people are. I think of it as the person. There is, I have nieces and nephews in their young 20s, and I know some of them like come to me. They're like, "Auntie, like, tell me what wines to get for my friend's birthday." Like, they live to talk to me about wine. And then I have a couple other ones, they're in baseball. One's a professional baseball player, like, they'll never come to me like for wine. Like, maybe they don't drink. I don't know. Um, so I'm learning just like you and everyone else, like, on what we could do to like hone in on them. But I think just like my generation, your generation, there's always going to be people who think one way, aren't going to be open to it, just like everything. So as much as we could try to hone in on a generation, it's not so much that, in my opinion. I think it's just honing in on people and trying to, get everyone to understand, there could be a balance. But I guess if we're talking specifically about Gen Z, I guess I want to, my way of trying to
Yeah.
get with them is get with them, is just continuing to be even more open about mental health. I know they really respect that and resonate with that. And being a conversation I've not always talked about together is drinking with being on SSRIs. And so drinking on
Yeah.
Prozac and being okay. Because I think that's a big divider where if you're on a Prozac medication, SSRI, whatever, you're not supposed to drink. And like, that gets into this very complicated conversation. And I've always been hesitant to address it because I'm not a doctor. I'm not a health expert. Like, I am never going to be like, do or do not do this. All I could ever say is, hey, I've been on SSRIs since I was 13 before I even drank. And I could say my mental health was probably worse back then
Yeah.
than it is now. And I drink. So it's like, for me, it's never been a decision. But I will say you really have to be willing to experiment a little bit, because every little body is like different in how they react. And I kind of say the 80-20% mindset. 80%, I'm very balanced. I'm like European mindset, like move slow, drink slow, less is more, eat with your food. But then 20%, I absolutely have my bender, where I drink too much. I didn't eat enough. Like I think just continuing to be honest about that, and then making people realize they could have, good days, bad days, alcohol can fit in, but like, let's not shame ourselves so much. Like, let's just like not demonize alcohol in ourselves because we had one bad evening, when really you've enjoyed wine so many other occasions, with your friends or with meals, and you've been totally fine. So that's something I've been working on for myself, is not letting, one bender make me demonize alcohol and be like, oh, I can't drink for, 2 months now. That's never helped me personally. It's more just almost like having a bad eating day if you struggle with food. Like, I've also had, disorders there. Having a bad binge day and then the next day not eating at all is never going to help me. So why would I do the same thing with wine? So I don't have the answer. I think the only thing I could think of is being honest to them about what I do, and maybe it could work for you, maybe it could even be better for you, and I've had a lot of people in my wine club open up to me, and they've helped me too. I have a lot of pharmacists in my wine club. I have a lot of nurses. I have a lot of psychiatrists. So it's been a little validating for me, being like, hey, they're human too. They have their good nights, their bad nights, but they see the full picture. Where like we all want the balance. We all want that European, Italian dream week, where we're drinking and eating and walking and, building conversation and community. We all want that. And I think as long as that's there, like, I see hope for it. But yeah.
Yeah, for me, I guess there's a couple things. One is I just did a video essay about loneliness being as big of a challenge for that group as any. I mean, they went to high school, a lot of them college and COVID years. They didn't connect with people.
Yeah.
They're stuck, frankly, a lot of the way they see the world is by themselves on their phone, flipping. Guys are more likely to stay at home and micro sports bet than go out to a bar. Females are more likely to
Mm,
micro shop than to go and buy a bottle of wine. And so there are a bunch of
yeah.
challenges, but the result of that kind of is loneliness. And so this brings me to my second kind of admission, which is I think that my most bombed that I've been drinking wine, at least this decade, was your tasting. So, everything has its balance, but great connector in a time where I was lonely. I mean, we were all lonely because of COVID, and a great way to emulate what a great wine party would be. So I'll give you some compliments for that. Maybe accidentally, rather than trying to diagnose it, like just sitting here talking, you figured out a lot of the elements that will end up mattering as people, reach the point when they do want to start going out again and do want to start connecting. And so
The
I'll give you some
loneliness,
credit.
though, is so true, though. Like, what there's like another word for it that I've been seeing, like hermiting. I don't know, but like, even I catch myself like not wanting to like go out to dinner midweek, and
Sure.
I think selfishly that could be a reason I love my wine club so much, is like literally tonight we have a paint and sip tasting. Like, so even though I'm feeling really like homebody lately, like I don't want to go put myself out there. It's like, at least I'm going to get to paint and sit with like 100 people tonight who are feeling the same way, but we could see each other and we're doing it together. So maybe with this younger generation too is like letting them be on their phone, letting them feel like they're friends with the girl on TikTok. Like, why can't they be like that? I think that's all something we all need to be okay with, but maybe encourage, let's just say her name's Michaela, who is always on TikTok and loves this girl, and that's what she does every night. Maybe, not just join my wine club, like, but like maybe FaceTime a friend, like just maybe encouraging them, just take it to the next level, even if it's on your phone or whatever, like just talk to someone in real time, and I think that's even a step forward. Um, because money wise, it's money too. Like they don't
Sure.
have money. Like I barely have money to just go spend out at dinner multiple times. There's so many restaurants I want to go to in, Scottsdale and Phoenix, and I support as many as I can, but yeah, I can't do that 2, 3 times a week, and so I think that's a deteriorator too. And I have so much love and compassion for the restaurant industry right now as well, because that's a whole thing. So yeah, finding ways that you could afford what you can and do it with someone, like in whatever capacity.
Yeah, and frankly, whether it's your wine club or another way in which you are buying wine, it's multi-serve. Go share it with somebody, and so it's
Yeah.
okay, and it
That's what
really
John,
isn't
it's
an
like if
additional
you're
expense.
drinking wine, good job. If you're drinking wine, good job. I think a lot of the industry is just being really extreme, being like, if you're not supporting a small winery, you suck. If you're shopping at Trader Joe's, like you're the problem. No, 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 no. If you are buying a bottle of wine, thank you. Like if you are following a wine account, thank you. Like I think starting there and then like being kind and grateful for that, and then you could build that relationship up with that community. And that's what I try to do on social media is, here's my Costco recs, here's my Trader Joe's recs. I genuinely love these wines, I genuinely drink them, but I'd say more than 50% of the time I'm drinking from a small winery. So if you want to learn more about that, even if you can't afford it, still try out a wine club night, and at least hear their story, because maybe you'll be in Paso Robles one day and you'll get to go visit that winemaker. Maybe one day you will be able to afford that wine bundle and that shipping fee. But like, I think it's like, again, like start the conversation, build that relationship up, and then take it to the next level. So maybe wineries could be doing something similar too.
So I've got your handle for Instagram up, so everybody could go visit you there. Are there
Thanks.
any other places where they should come hunt you down in order to learn a little bit more about what you're up to and become part of the Sam No Snob Som community?
Yeah, definitely Instagram, TikTok's the same handle, Samantha Sommelier. And if you want to sign up for my email list, old school way, that's like awesome. And then you'll get some emails from me every week. And again, build up a relationship. I'll talk more about what I do, and email me if you have any questions. And yeah, love to just get the conversation started.
Well, I super, super appreciate it. And the good news is that even though we're not both together in Phoenix, where we're supposed to be, we were able to connect. And hopefully, we solved all the wine industry's problems. And more importantly, I've got to spend time with you, which is a great excuse. So thanks so much, Sam, for
Aw,
doing this.
thanks, John.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me.